All right, strap in everyone, because today we are going deep into the world of, well, genetically engineered stem cells.
Oh, cool.
Specifically how they might be the key to finally tackling this gastroesophageal cancer.
Yeah.
We found this press release detailing a $1 million grant awarded for this research.
Wow.
And the science is pretty mind-boggling, I
Ah,
gotta say.
yeah.
Imagine this. Your own body just churning out, like, a lifetime supply of cancer-fighting cells.
Right.
It's like having an internal army always on the lookout.
Yeah. So what is it about these gastroesophageal cancers that make them particularly difficult?
Oh, they're nasty.
Yeah.
We're talking about a cancer that took over 1.3 million lives globally just back in 2020 alone.
Wow.
Existing treatments have had limited success, which is why this research is, so vital.
So where does this $1 million grant fit in? What are they actually trying to do with this money?
Well, this research is being spearheaded by a Dr. Saar Gill at the University of Pennsylvania, and they're focusing on something called CAR cell therapy.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
But there's a twist, right?
Okay.
It's been super successful in treating blood cancers,
Right.
but it hasn't been as effective against solid tumors.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's where Dr. Gill and his team come in.
So how are they modifying these CAR cells to make them better at fighting solid tumors?
It's not just about modifying the CAR cells themselves.
Oh.
It's about choosing the right type of cell for the job.
Okay.
They're focusing on these things called macrophages,
Macrophage.
and those are cells that are already present in large numbers within the tumor environment. Those cells that just gobble up all the cellular debris in your body?
Yes. Yeah, like the cleanup crew.
They're like the body's cleanup crew.
Right.
And they're turning that cleanup crew into a specialized hip squad.
Interesting. So they're using these macrophages that are already there and sort of weaponizing them? Is that the idea?
It's like weaponizing the body's natural defenses.
I like that, yeah.
Now, here's how it works. Dr. Gill's method genetically engineers stem cells to produce these souped-up macrophages called CAR macrophages.
Okay.
Each one programmed to target and destroy specific cancer cells within the solid tumor.
So it's kind of like a more targeted approach than just using the regular CAR T cells.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the goal is to have these engineered stem cells keep producing these cancer-fighting macrophages for, well, a really long time.
Right. So instead of just a one-time treatment, you're looking at like a longer term.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how do these CAR macrophages even get into the tumor?
Yeah, how do
Are they injected directly, or
Right.
that's where things get really ingenious?
Okay.
Dr. Gill is essentially using the body's own systems against the cancer, right?
Oh, wow.
These CAR macrophages, they reach the tumor using the same pathways that regular macrophages use.
So they're kind of like sneaking in.
It's like a Trojan horse,
Right.
sneaking into the tumor's stronghold and attacking it from within.
I like that analogy, yeah.
And, with support from organizations like the DeGregorio Family Foundation and the Torrey Coast Foundation, they have the resources to make this happen.
That's great.
This all sounds incredible.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the specifics. Why is this Trojan horse approach so potentially effective against solid tumors?
Well, you see, solid tumors, they're notoriously difficult to treat
Okay.
because they kind of create this complex microenvironment that adds like a fortress,
Oh.
shielding them from the immune system.
Okay.
Previous therapies have struggled to penetrate these defenses.
Right.
But that's where CAR macrophages have a, well, unique advantage.
And what is that advantage? I mean, do they have any special powers or?
Well, think about it. Regular macrophages, they already infiltrate solid tumors just as part of their normal function.
As part of their job.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they're already inside.
They're undercover agents.
They're like undercover agents already inside the enemy's base.
Okay.
So by modifying them into CAR macrophages, we're giving them the weapons they need to fight once they're there.
So it's not just about getting them in, it's about making sure they can actually do some damage once they're there.
Exactly.
That's clever.
Yep.
But wouldn't this raise concerns about, potential harm to healthy tissues?
That's a critical point.
Right.
And definitely one of the challenges Dr. Gill will need to address.
Okay.
The key is to make sure these CAR macrophages are specifically targeting cancer cells
Right.
and not harming healthy tissue.
That's a delicate balance for sure.
It is.
I imagine this research is incredibly complex.
It is.
How are they even creating these CAR macrophages in the first place?
Well, it all starts with stem cells.
Okay.
These cells are like blank slates
Right.
that could be programmed to become different types of cells,
Okay.
including macrophages.
Uh-huh.
So Dr. Gill's team is using genetic engineering techniques
Right.
to insert specific genes into these stem cells.
Okay.
Genes that code for the cancer targeting abilities of the CAR macrophages.
It's amazing to think we can manipulate cells on such a fundamental level. You're
Yeah.
basically rewriting their DNA,
Exactly.
giving them a whole new mission.
Yeah.
But wouldn't this process be, I don't know, super expensive and complex to scale up?
That's another challenge, for sure.
Right.
Producing these CAR macrophages right now,
Uh-huh.
it's a highly specialized and costly process.
Okay.
But as the technology advances,
Yeah.
there's hope that it will become more efficient and affordable,
Right.
making it accessible to a wider range of patients.
And it's encouraging to see organizations like the DeGregorio Family Foundation and the Torricos Foundation really stepping up to the plate and supporting this research.
Absolutely.
Their support is crucial for, for overcoming these challenges and actually making this therapy a reality for the people who need it the most.
I agree.
And, for our listeners out there who might be wondering why all this focus on gastroesophageal cancer,
Right.
it's important to remember that this type of cancer is particularly aggressive.
Yes.
It has a very high mortality rate.
It does.
And current treatments often face, limitations.
They do. Chemotherapy resistance, its
Right.
tendency to spread.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
That's why this research is so crucial.
Absolutely.
It offers a glimmer of hope for patients facing a really daunting prognosis
Yeah.
and the potential for a therapy that could actually provide long-term protection against this devastating disease.
Right.
It's remarkable.
It really is.
But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, let's take a step back.
Okay.
What are some of the challenges?
Yeah.
What are the considerations associated with this groundbreaking research?
That's a good question. One crucial aspect we have to consider is the long-term behavior of these engineered CAR macrophages.
Right, because the goal is to create a lasting defense against the cancer.
Right.
But how do we know that they won't cause problems down the road?
Exactly. We're essentially manipulating the body's immune system.
Right.
And there's always a risk of unintended effects.
It's like introducing a new species into an ecosystem.
Yeah.
You never know how it's going to interact with everything else.
Exactly.
So ongoing monitoring and research are going to be really key here.
It's going to be essential.
We need to understand how these engineered cells behave over time.
Yes.
Whether they might trigger any, any unintended immune responses.
That's right.
It's like we're stepping into the realm of science fiction.
I know.
We're modifying our own biology in ways that seemed unimaginable just a few decades ago.
It's incredible.
It's amazing, but
It's a little scary, too.
it's also a bit scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And with such groundbreaking advancements come ethical considerations.
Oh, huge ethical considerations. This
Ooh.
isn't just about the science.
Right.
What are the long-term risks and benefits?
Right.
Who gets access to this type of therapy?
Yeah.
These are questions that we need to be addressing right now
Absolutely.
as this research is progressing.
And it's a conversation that needs to involve not just scientists and doctors,
Right.
but ethicists, public
Right.
at large.
Everyone, we need to be having these conversations now.
Absolutely.
Not after the technology's already here.
I agree.
Otherwise, we risk, exacerbating existing healthcare disparities.
Exactly.
But even with all these challenges
Yeah.
and ethical questions,
Uh-huh.
the potential benefits of this research,
Right.
too significant to ignore.
Absolutely. It's a beacon of hope
It's a beacon of hope.
for countless individuals battling this disease.
And potentially many other types of cancers in the future.
Exactly.
It's truly inspiring to see how scientific innovation can push the boundaries
Yeah.
of what's possible in the fight against disease.
It is. It reminds us that even in the face of these seemingly insurmountable challenges,
Yeah,
human ingenuity
yeah.
and the pursuit of knowledge
Can lead to breakthroughs that can change the world.
that can change the world.
So for our listeners who are out there who are interested in learning more about this research,
Yeah.
staying updated on its progress,
Mhm.
what resources would you recommend?
Well, I'd say keep an eye on those reputable science journals like Nature and Science,
Okay.
and also news outlets that focus on scientific breakthroughs.
Yeah. Are there any specific ones that you'd recommend?
Well, you've got Science Daily, New Scientist, things like that.
Okay, right.
And don't forget about science podcasts.
Oh, of course.
There are tons of great shows out there
Right.
that explain these concepts in really engaging and informative ways.
Well, we're certainly fans of those.
Absolutely.
And don't underestimate the power of Google.
Right.
Just make sure you're getting your information from credible sources.
That's a good point.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Sure.
As we move towards a future where we can engineer our own cells to fight disease,
Yeah.
what does that mean for our understanding of human health?
That's a big question.
What does that mean for our relationship with our own bodies?
I think it's clear that we're entering a new era of medicine
Yes.
where the boundaries between biology and technology
Right.
are becoming increasingly blurred.
Absolutely.
And this raises a lot of questions about the future of healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
the ethics of manipulating our own biology,
Yeah.
and even, the very definition of what it means to be human.
What does it mean to be human?
What does it mean to be human?
That's a conversation that's just beginning,
It is.
and one that we'll undoubtedly be exploring further in the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait.
But for now, we'll leave it there. Join us for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the potential of personalized medicine
Sounds good.
and the ethical considerations that come with it.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back, everyone!
It's great to be back.
We're knee-deep in Dr. Gill's research now, and I'm starting to feel like I need like a bioengineering degree to keep up with all this.
Yeah, it's pretty complex stuff.
It
But
is.
it's fascinating, right?
It is fascinating.
It really is.
I think it's crucial to kind of zoom out a little bit
Okay.
and consider the broader implications of all of this.
Right, we've been talking about the how,
The how.
but the so what is important too.
Exactly.
So what happens if Dr. Gill is wildly successful
Right.
and this therapy becomes, commonplace? What does that world even look like?
It's like stepping into a sci-fi novel.
I know, right?
Imagine a future where cancer treatment isn't this grueling battle,
Right?
but it's more like a routine tune-up for your immune system.
Right. Get your CAR macrophages updated.
Yeah.
And you're good to go for a few more years.
It's amazing and also a little unsettling, don't you think?
It is a little bit, yeah. It kind of makes you wonder what's natural anymore.
Yeah,
But, humans have been manipulating nature for a long time, right?
that's true.
We've got selective breeding,
Right.
we've got antibiotics.
Right, we've been doing it forever.
This is just a far more precise way of intervening.
But with that precision comes responsibility, right?
Great point, yeah.
I mean, who decides who gets access to this kind of treatment?
Yeah,
What if it becomes something that only the wealthy can afford?
right.
Those are huge ethical questions.
They are. Those are questions that science can't answer on its own.
Right, it's going to take
We need ethicists, we need policymakers.
philosophers even.
Yeah, maybe even philosophers. It's a big conversation.
And it's one that we need to be having now,
Yes, absolutely.
not after the technology is already here.
Otherwise, we just end up making those existing healthcare disparities even worse.
Exactly.
So I need to get ahead of this.
Let's not lose sight of the positive potential here, though.
Okay, yeah.
Imagine a world where we could use this technology not just to treat cancer, but to prevent it altogether.
Wow, now that's getting really futuristic.
I know, but is it even remotely feasible?
It's definitely further down the road,
Okay.
but not entirely impossible.
Okay.
If we can figure out how to engineer these cells to target cancer,
Uh-huh.
theoretically, we could engineer them to identify and eliminate precancerous cells
Right.
before they even become a problem.
Okay, now my mind is officially blown.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's like having a built-in health inspector patrolling your body 24/7.
I like that analogy.
That brings up another crazy question, though.
Okay, what's that?
What does this mean for human evolution?
Wow.
If we're essentially directing our own evolution through cellular engineering,
Yeah,
what will future generations even look like?
that's a huge question.
It's almost like we're playing the role of natural selection now, right?
It is, yeah. Like we're deciding which traits get passed down.
Even if it's just on a cellular level.
That's right. And that's where I think the really philosophical questions come into play.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be human?
Right. What does it mean to be human?
If we're constantly manipulating our own biology, where's the line?
Now I need a philosophy degree on top of that bioengineering degree.
I know, right? It's a lot to think about.
Seriously, though, these are the conversations we need to be having alongside the scientific advancements.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I find so fascinating about this research.
Yeah.
It's not just science, it's ethics, it's philosophy.
It's everything.
It touches on so many different aspects of human existence.
I know. It's a reminder that science doesn't exist in a vacuum, right?
No, it doesn't.
It's intertwined with society, with culture, with our understanding of ourselves.
Absolutely.
I know our listeners are probably thinking, okay, this is all very interesting,
Yeah,
but how do I stay on top of this rapidly evolving field
that's a good question.
without needing a PhD in molecular biology?
Right, right. Well, there's some great resources out there.
Okay.
If you want to stay informed,
Okay.
you can check out those reputable science journals.
Like Nature and Science?
Like Nature and Science, they often publish summaries of the research
Okay.
that are more accessible to the general public.
Those can be pretty dense, though.
Yeah, sometimes. Another option is to follow some of the science news outlets,
Okay. Like what?
like Science Daily or New Scientist.
Okay.
They tend to break down the complex research
Right.
into more digestible chunks.
Yeah, that's hopeful.
And don't forget about Science Podcast.
Of course not.
There's so many good ones out there
There are a lot of good ones.
that explain these concepts in really engaging ways.
Yeah, we might be a little biased there.
We might be a little biased, but it's true.
And don't underestimate the power of Google.
Right.
Just make sure you're getting your information from a credible source.
Good point. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the journals, we've talked about the news outlets, we've talked about the podcasts.
Podcasts.
Any other resources that come to mind?
Oh, yeah. I'd also recommend checking out specific researchers' websites.
Okay.
Universities and research institutions often have dedicated pages that explain their work in simpler terms.
Okay.
They might even have videos, infographics, things like that.
That's super helpful.
And don't be afraid to reach out to experts directly.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of scientists are really passionate about sharing their work with the public.
Yeah.
They're usually happy to answer questions.
That's great to know.
Yeah, it's a reminder that science isn't some ivory tower pursuit.
Right.
It's a collaborative.
It's a process.
It's an ever-evolving process.
That we can all be a part of.
That's the important thing.
So we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We have.
From the science behind Dr. Gill's research to the broader societal and ethical implications. But there's still so much more to explore.
There is. It's such a rich topic.
It is.
It really makes you think.
It does.
About where we're headed as a species.
So in the next part of our deep dive,
okay,
we're gonna, you guessed it, dive even deeper.
All right, I'm ready.
Into the future of personalized medicine.
I'm strapped in.
Consider what this research means for the future of humanity.
That's a big one.
It's going to be fascinating. Stick with us. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. I gotta say, after the last two parts, I'm both excited and kind of terrified about this future of medicine,
I know what you mean.
We started talking about Dr. Bill's research, but it feels like we've kind of stumbled into this much, much bigger conversation.
Absolutely. This isn't just about, one specific therapy. It's really about redefining our whole relationship with our own bodies.
And that's what I think is so interesting for our listeners, because this isn't just like some abstract scientific concept,
Right.
This could be impacting all of our lives pretty soon.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine a world where going to the doctor isn't about, fixing something that's broken, but it's more about optimizing your health, like at a cellular level.
Okay, paint me a picture here. What would that even look like?
So right now we go to the doctor when we feel sick, right?
Right.
But what if we could detect those potential problems, way before you even have symptoms?
At like a genetic level.
Exactly, at the genetic or cellular level. So instead of waiting for, a heart attack to happen, you could go in and have your cells tweaked to prevent it from ever happening.
Okay, so it's like preventative maintenance, but for your body.
Exactly. Or think about medications. What if you could have medication that are tailored to your specific genetic makeup so they're way more effective and have fewer side effects?
So we're talking about personalized medicine, but like on steroids. But wouldn't that mean like constant monitoring of our bodies? That sounds a little invasive.
Well, it might involve more regular checkups and screenings, but, the technology is already moving in that direction. Think about all those wearables we have now. Smartwatches that track your heart rate, your sleep patterns.
Right.
Those could evolve to track all sorts of subtle changes in our bodies.
So we're talking about a future where we're constantly plugged in, constantly aware of what's going on inside us. That's a bit much, isn't it?
I mean, in a way, yes. But it's not about obsessing over every little thing. It's about having access to information so you can be more proactive about your health.
I can see that. But what about like data privacy? Who has access to all that information about our bodies? That's kind of scary.
That's a really important point. As we move towards this personalized medicine future, we definitely need systems to protect our data and make sure it's not misused.
It's like opening a whole new can of worms, technologically and ethically, but it feels like there's no turning back now. This research is going to keep going, whether we're ready or not.
It's the nature of scientific progress, right? It moves faster than we can sometimes wrap our heads around it. But that's why these conversations are so crucial. We need to think critically about this future we're creating and make sure it benefits everybody.
And that's where our listeners come in, right?
Yeah.
We need everyone to be a part of these conversations, to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, to really help shape this future of medicine in a way that aligns with our values.
Exactly. This isn't just for scientists or policymakers. It's about all of us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a challenge. Don't just sit back and passively listen to this. Go out there, learn more, talk to your friends and family, and start thinking, what kind of future do you want to see?
I love that. And remember, even the smallest actions can make a difference. Share an article, ask a question, start a conversation. All that helps to raise awareness and get these important conversations going.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing journey exploring all this with you. I feel like I've learned so much, not just about the science, but, about the future of humanity as a whole.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And to our listeners, Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Keep those minds curious, keep asking those big questions, and we'll see you next time for another adventure into the world of science.